2 Ezra 11:40. And the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that will pass, and have power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression, and so long time dwelt upon earth with deceit. Kol Halo Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rekaha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000, and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen, that have the appearance of the heathen, and to the few akwaf that are listening and learning. To you I say shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. All right. And the truth is that the Lord is coming back to establish the nation of Israel as the ruling class people here on earth, the tabernacle of David. All right. As he's closed up the breaches thereof, and we'll reestablish them as the new government here on earth. No more American government. No Israeli government, no Japanese government, no Chinese, no Russian, and so forth. It will be on earth as it is in heaven with the Israelites ruling. Not the Ish, not the J-Ish. They are not the Israelites. And the evidence is overwhelming, though they try to ignore it every day and just dismiss the truth as they get caught in their lies, like the one you saw in controlling the narrative. This was a controlled narrative. A PSYOP video of a lady that so pitifully died on the train when even though she was supposedly stabbed in the neck and there wasn't any spurts of blood. You know, I just watched a movie called The Strangers, and everybody that got stabbed in the neck, blood squirted everywhere. This woman got hit in the neck 3 or 4 times and no blood came. She never grabbed the wound. Everyone that gets harmed grabs their wound. She never grabbed a wound. There no spurts, no blood shooting anywhere. She was extra quiet and just sunk down in her seat out of sight, and then put like ketchup on the seat and on the floor beneath. Like it just ran out. It would have been blood everywhere, in between her fingers, on the seat, on the windows. You know, just a psyop. And people fed into it. And it was all to create an illusion and to make the so-called black man who's completely immune to being crazy. Only white male killers, being the fact that they murder more and commit more heinous crimes and more violent crimes in America, as statistics really show you. They're the only ones who can have, and every time they do, there's a question of their sanity. But a so-called black man, he can't be insane. He can't be crazy. He's just murderous. All right. But all this comes down to power, control, and narrative and what they're doing. For example, let's turn
the U.S.
this up.
Code, the president has plenary authority.
You hear that? Then he went silent.
Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority. Stephen?
And he pretends like you can hear the background. Pretends like his mic went off.
Hey, Stephen, can you hear me?
This racist, bald-faced little piece of shit.
Under Title...
All right. So under Title 10, so he basically let the cat out the bag, and they're trying to backtrack and cover up that, just saying what they try to cover up who the Israelites really are. Let's give you some receipts. All right. Shout out to my beloved April O'Neil, the on-the-spot journalist who's always coming with that heat.
Claiming that Donald Trump has plenary authority is his open public admission that this administration is involved in an act of treason. Treason is defined as either aiding your enemies, which we probably already are with Russia, or waging war, loving war against your country. Now, that statement alone, he could say, I didn't know what that meant, or I used the wrong word. We all know that he knew exactly what it meant, which is why he froze like a fucking little bitch that he is as soon as he said it. But that coming off the back of Donald Trump ordering American troops to use American cities as training grounds, those two things, hand in hand, that just sealed the deal. That's the hamburger and the bun, baby. That is black and white, cut and dry, a declaration of loving war against the citizens of your own country. And while those two things separately are bad, together, it just confirms it. This is the nail in the coffin. Download those videos, make sure that they don't disappear, and call your fucking congressional leader. These are open confessions in public. Stephen Miller claiming that.
So let's get a scripture. Because you still got people who especially you so-called Israelite teachers and leaders out there, who are teaching against JT like it's not going to happen or already happened. Jacob's trouble was a future prophecy that happens prior to the return of the Lord. Jacob's trouble happens in the end of days. All right? To be scripturally sound. To teach otherwise, you're not preparing the people the same way that you people are denying the micro CHIP, that you're denying the MOTB, when it's apparent that is the fix to all this problems and wars and chaos and famine. This is how they're going to control everyone. Get your bio location and your bio and then you're using your bios to identify you, and they can locate you at all times. Right? You can't move anywhere. You can't make any moves, banking, housing, traveling, entertainment, nothing, without them having your bio, so that they can control and monitor you. All right. So that if you speak against them the same way you speak against something like what happened with AOC, we'll get to that in a moment. All right. But let me read this scripture. This is 2 Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to them and the world that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. You have soldiers in former videos now saying that they're ready to die to defend the law of the land, to defend the Constitution. And then you have those who broken their oath and want to defend the dictator, who's, according to Article 10, giving himself plenary power to overrule the rule of law. So we're looking at a civil war. All right. And you Jakes, you so-called Latins and Negroes and natives are going to be cannon fodder, because you're going to get caught in the middle of it. So they're going to dwindle your numbers significantly as they attack one another. And then in the midst of this chaos and this famine and this destruction, they're going to invoke, the forced micro CHIP, which is basically the MOTB, the mark of the you-know-what, in Revelation, the 13th chapter. It's so plain to see at this point. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And the man shall desire to go into a city, but shall not be able, because of the pride. The city shall be troubled, and houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. So you got this little openly racist piece of shit, Stephen Miller, basically declaring war on the people, declaring war on so-called Negroes, Latinos, while it's actually white males that are doing the most damage as far as unaliving people here in the West. All right. And the result of this is there's going to be no food, no power, no electricity. So basically the whole campaign to bring the numbers down, since the C-19 didn't do it good because too many people didn't do it. And all the people that did do it are all dying slowly and continuing to drop to the point that, they were deleting videos and accounts if you spoke against it. And now they're restoring them because it was proven that was absolutely true. The cure did more damage than the actual created disease in the first place, from, the disease was created in the center of the disease creation. We all should know where that place is. All right. And as a result of all this, there's going to be a lack of food, lack of power, and people are going to be starving to death. So they're going to get their mass decline in numbers of people that they've been trying to get in the first place. All right. Verse 19, second Ezra 15:19. And a man shall have no pity on his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. All right. And the people who are heading this up are the little hats. All right. Because what they're trying to do is establish their own rule and control over all the earth and establish their own blessing, because they were denied the blessing because they are not the people. All right. They are not the people. So they're and Donald Trump is just a figurehead working for them because they have control over Babylon. All right. It tells you that Amalek was the first of the nations. It tells you that the Edomites went into the land of Israel. It tells you, and that's in Ezekiel. In Isaiah, the 63rd chapter, it tells you that the Edomites will be ruling the world upon the return of the Lord. Hence the reason why his wrath is coming down upon Edom.
What I'm about to show you is going to make your stomach churn, like it did mine. Representative Ilhan Omar is under fire for telling the truth. People are claiming that she's an anti-Semite because of some comments she made about a pro-Israel lobby, a very powerful pro-Israel lobby that spends gobs and gobs of money on Congress in order to make sure that they get their pro-Israel agenda through. And she told the truth about them and now is completely under fire. So what happened was Representative Kevin McCarthy, he basically threatened congressional action against Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib for criticism of Israel. When Ilhan Omar saw this and heard about what Representative Kevin McCarthy was saying, she tweeted a response quoting Puff Daddy saying, "It's all about the Benjamins, baby." Then the editor at The Forward, which is a Jewish publication, asked Omar who she was referring to as who she was insinuating was paying off these Republican congresspeople. And she responded, AIPAC, which is the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which is the United States' most prominent pro-Israel lobby. Since then, she is being completely drug around. People are saying that she's an anti-Semite, that these comments are unacceptable. All she did was say, you're bought by this pro-Israel lobby, and when asked who was paying, all she said was AIPAC, and this is somehow anti-Semitic. I am not connecting the dots here. I don't understand how calling out a large lobbying group is somehow anti-Semitic. This makes absolutely no sense to me.
Exactly.
This is similar to saying the reason why we won't go hard against Saudi Arabia is because they buy a lot of weapons from us. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. Is that now somehow anti-Muslim to say that? To say, well, you're only pro-Saudi Arabia because they're buying weapons from us and you want the money? Is that pro-Muslim? I mean, anti-Muslim? So I don't really understand how saying this organization, which is spending a lot of money in a variety of dark ways to influence Congress, I don't understand how that is somehow anti-Semitic. And she's now being called out. Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, many Democrats are calling her out. Many Republicans are calling her out. She's since had to come out and apologize. She's saying, I'm sorry for my, what I guess seemed to be insensitive anti-Semitic comments. People on Twitter are dragging her around. I mean, this is just absurd for calling out a lobbying group. And it gets worse.
Yeah. So basically, they make you an offender for a word. That's prophesied that they would do that. All right. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, that's Isaiah 29 and 21. They make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. So if you speak truth about a particular subject, all right, they will, this is what they'll do. All right. They'll make a man an offender for a word. And they do this every day. Why? To control a false narrative. All right. So now I'm going to play this other one from Kim. All right. And, I've been watching Kim for almost a decade now. I've been using her videos and, her commentary to and you can see that if you really pay attention, and for those of you who are new, even you've been around, you can kind of see everyone is now questioning the little hats and their legitimacy. And that's because of us. We're the number one threat, because we're the only ones that actually teach the 100% truth. And as you can see, the video in the upper left corner of your screen, the real Jews and their location, ChatGPT, the real Jews and their emergence will shock the world. Well, that's true. The hidden ones, because the world has ignored the truth and the relics and the evidences that prove who the Israelites are, beyond a shadow of a doubt. They've ignored it. All right, they just look right past it, and they'll talk about and then they'll talk about parts of the world. And when you speak about Africa, okay, or the continent of Africa and the continent of Asia connect. All right. And in the ancient world, during the time of Abraham, all those people were dark flesh people. Everyone except for Esau, Edom. And they were in that part of the world too. All right. The Edomites came from Mount Seir. That was their home where they dwelled. Mount Seir sits in Jordan. All right. And they stayed in the mountains, in the caverns, and in the caves. And they built cities into the caves. And then they still build the same way. When you look at the city of Petra, all right, was where Mount Seir sits, you can still see that that's the way that the so-called white man builds today. Most of his museums and a lot of his houses and a lot of the, his courthouses and things of that nature, they're all built that. Matter of fact, let me just show it, because there's always someone new. So this is for the new people, not for you people who've been around, who've been listening, learning, and studying. And no, this is for the people who don't. All right. But here, that's the entrance to Petra. All right. 7-story building carved right into the mountains. Okay. That's Petra. Even with the eagles at the top, carved right on it. Okay. That's how it looks from a distance. Okay. And these are the people that came from there. This isn't ancient Greece or Rome. This is their first home, the first cavern, the first caves that they lived in. These people. These are the brothers. These are the seed of Jacob's brother, all right, who came out pale. Lack of melanin. Esau. All right. So when the J-ish say that they have ties back to that part of the world, they actually do. It's just not the Israelites. And they keep talking about this Semite thing. You go to the Blue Letter Bible, and the one word that you won't find in the Bible is Semite. That's a word that they made up to control the narrative. All right. However, there was Shem, so there would be Shemites, the sons of Shem, and Shem is who Abraham came from. Abraham was a Hebrew. He wasn't J-ish. I think that's because this J-ish lie has to stop. It has to come, because what they've done is they've hijacked Israelite and attached J-ish to it. They've hijacked Hebrew and attached J-ish to it. All right? This is what they've done. Because you can't call the 12 tribes of Israel, as Kim's going to erroneously say, you can't call them J-ish. That J thing only goes back to one tribe, the tribe of Judah. You can't call the other 11 tribes, J-ish. You can't do it. The water, the Lord brought it right back to my memory. This is Genesis 14:13. And there came one that escaped and had told Abram, the Hebrew. I'll read it again. Put it in the screen. Okay. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, the brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. All right. Abram, whose name was changed to Abraham, which means father of many nations, the 12 tribes of Israel, each one of them is a nation. All right. Not Abram's other, because Abram had other seeds that are not of the Lord's chosen. Okay. He had other sons. Other races came from out of his other sons, other people, right? It's only the father of nations that's counted in the Bible as the Lord's children are the ones that came out of the 12 patriarchs of Israel, Jacob's sons. All right. And that's what it is. And they came and so let's listen to Kim's very incorrect breakdown of even though she's coming against the ish, she's just breaking it down completely wrong. All right, because what she's saying is that the Israeli prime minister admits the Jays didn't originally, or their origin. All right. What they're not going to admit is the Edomite conversion, and then the Herodians, and that's your beginning of your Jayish. And Herod the Great was an Edomite. That's where your J-ish is coming from.
Jewish homeland, and that they have every right to be there, that they're the indigenous people, and that the people who are there are these Arabs who've come from other places, and that they shouldn't be there. And so I want to play this for you. This is Naftali Bennett. He has been the opposition of Netanyahu. He's many think would be the next prime minister, and yet these are the types of things he believes. He has this 3-minute, he says this is a 3-minute 3 minutes of the history of Jews and Zionism. Let's watch what he has to say, and then we're going to break it down.
I'll do something I've never done, and I'll try in 3 minutes to do the history of Jews and Zionism, starting now. The Jewish people first entered the land of Israel 3,300 years ago, and everyone can read that in the Bible. Assuming you don't believe the Bible, then you can look at archaeology, which...
Trying to pause that. All right. He just told you that the J-ish people entered Israel. All right. J-ish people didn't enter Israel. Hebrews did. Remember I told you they used the J-ish word to hijack the Hebrews. Abram wasn't J-ish. There was no such thing as no J's yet. All right. Judah was the fourth born son. All right. So Isaac was a Hebrew because his father was, and both his sons, Jacob and Esau, are Hebrews. So guess what? The so-called pale people, the so-called white man, the so-called pale people, they're Hebrews too. They're Shemitic. Remember, Semite is made up. That's a term that they created in order to control a narrative, and then they hold it and they use it as a weapon against people when you speak out and tell the truth about him. So this guy is telling you a fabricated version, a controlled narrative of history about the Israelites.
Shows evidence of about 3,000 years ago. There's no dispute that...
Hold on a second. I want to pause this. Let me just go ahead and do a pause. So let's back this up just for a second. So he says, let's go ahead and play
the Bible, then you can look at archaeology. Jewish people first entered.
Damn, she been hanging out with people in Chicago. She didn't say back up. She said, let's bag this up. That's like Chicago slang. They always say they bag up. No, it's back up. But
There it is. The Jewish people first entered. So he's saying the Jewish people first entered.
Jewish people first entered the land of Israel 3,300 years.
Okay, so they came from somewhere else.
okay,
right?
so we'll just
So
stop
he's
it.
going to tell us this is.
We'll stop it right there. All right. Look, Jewish people became so-called Jewish people when these Edomite Jewish people were forced to convert to follow these Idumeans. That's what the Jewish people were. They became Ish, like the Jews, but not at the hand of real Israelites, of Levites, who are the Maccabees. All right, under the when they were conquered, when they lost in battle to the Maccabees, when the Maccabees were fighting against the Greeks and against everybody else during that 400 period of Hellenization of the Israelites. When the southern kingdom was Hellenized and they became Gentiles and became Greeks. Hence the reason why the scriptures say there's no difference between Greek nor Jew. All right. Okay. That's why it says that. Because you had the Israelites, the Judeans, meaning Levi, Benjamin, and Judah, that knew they were Israelites. And then you had the Israelites that had become Greek in fashion, that were following after Greekish fashion, who were returning to their heritage or waking up to the fact that they were actually bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, knowing that they were Hebrews. All right, who had been living their lives as Greek citizens, following Greek customs and ways. That's what the Bible is talking about. That is the narrative that they try so desperately to control and to hide into Claudius and Acts the 18th chapter. History. This is history you can go look up. In Acts the 18th chapter, to substantiate everything that I just said, Acts 18:1, after these things, Paul departed from Athens, he was in Greece, and came to Corinth, the city of the Corinthians. Why there's so many letters written to the Corinthians? Because they were Hellenized to the max, following after the false Grecian ways and named themselves with Grecian names and with tattoos and crazy haircuts and orgies and false gods, all the stuff that the Edomite, who actually hijacked the Grecian name from the melanated Japhetic people. Remember, the sons of Japhet were your real Greeks. The sons of Japhet were your real Romans. The Edomites, through Alexander, took that over and kept the name to themselves. All right, that's history as well. Biblical and the Bible history is the most accurate history in the world. Okay? Now, going back to Acts 18:1, after these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth and found a certain J named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, and his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Judeans to depart from Rome, and came unto them. So what was happening was, the reason why the Israelites were being forced to leave Rome was because of the camps. All right. Groups of Israelites, and there are images of this in the catacombs in Rome still to this day. All right. Because of aggressive street teaching, kind of like GMS. You know, you'll hear these soft anti-camp. Look, the Lord and the disciples was a camp. They said the 7 churches set up in the Bible were camps that taught on the highways and byways in the streets. Acts 18 is just more further proof of that. Do your research. Because of aggressive street teaching, the Israelites waking up to who they were, and that men would gather in the chief concourse places and tell their people very aggressively, come out of her, my people, you are Israelite. Stop cutting your hair that way. Stop putting markings. Stop lining up your beards. Stop shaving your beards off, having a bald face like Edomites who defy the Lord. Okay? Stop following behind their ways. Stop wearing the penis symbols hanging from your neck like the necktie. You see the screen. Bald faces and neckties. That is the way of the Edomites. 3 prominent Edomites on the screen. All 3 have bald faces and penises hanging from their necks. Stop following their ways. Come back to your ways. Come out of her, my people. Aggressive street teaching. Camps. Okay? And what so the same way that the AIPAC and all these other Jewish organizations control the individuals, they also control the science, they control the medicine, they control the information, they control what's taught in the schools, the textbooks, and they control and have hidden history to hide the fact that Rome fell, the Edomites fell out of power, and they came back into power during the Renaissance. And in that 1,000-year period where the Holy Roman Empire or the Byzantine Empire, all right, was so-called black people were ruling Europe. They were your real Scots, your real Irish, etc., etc. Well, and this is evidence of it.
The earliest Christians painted Mary and Jesus black. In Roman catacombs, medieval shrines, and ancient icons, Mary and baby Jesus are shown with dark skin and woolly hair. These weren't hidden. They were worshipped for centuries. Even today, Europe protects black Madonnas in cathedrals while pretending not to notice their color. But once power shifted, artists repainted them pale. If they weren't black, why go through the trouble to whitewash them? They couldn't erase the shrine, so they erased the skin, which proves the earliest Christians painted Mary and Jesus black. In Roman catacombs, medieval shrine.
In Roman catacombs, Acts 18:1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews depart from Rome and came unto them. All right. They were forced to depart from Rome because of the camps, because of the Israelite men who would come out on the corners, on the highways and byways in the streets and claim that the kingdom of heaven was coming, and for their people, not all people, to repent, to come back to the ways of our power.
The earliest Christians painted Mary and Jesus black. In Roman catacombs, medieval shrines, and ancient icons, Mary and baby Jesus are shown with dark skin and woolly hair. These weren't hidden. They were worshipped for centuries. Even today, Europe protects black Madonnas in cathedrals while pretending not to notice their color. But once power shifted, artists repainted them pale. If they weren't black, why go through the trouble to whitewash them? They couldn't erase the shrine, so they erased the skin, which proves the earliest Christians.
Now you remember Putin unleashed the Russian volts from the I think it was the 8th and 9th century or somewhere around that time. All right. So the truth is coming out, man, on every scale, that there is. And you can't get around it. Let's finish with a scripture. First one that came to mind was the same one that are much deceit. I'm going to read it again. 2 Ezra 11 and 39 and 40. Yeah. And the fourth came, the fourth beast, the fourth sister. Remember, America is what's left of the fourth beast that was wounded by the very people you see on the screen. These are the people that brought down Rome and became it went from being the pagan Roman Empire to the Holy Roman Empire. The Israelites that were among them took over. They let them become too powerful. Their numbers, they were all in the military, all within the government. And they took over and established, unfortunately, it was our own people that established Christianity. Trying to hold on, because so many of our people still wanted to follow those pagan ways. So they added Christianity, they added paganism into Christianity. And then Esau, Edom came up, rose back up. All right, the fourth beast, the dragon that was wounded but did live. Rome was the red dragon. All right, and they came back into power and got power over the whole compass of the earth. So America is what's left of the Roman Empire, and they're about to fall. All right, and it says, and they had power over the whole world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression, and so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. So with deceit they've ruled, and now we've come to the end of that. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakahak Wadash Kwam Yasharala Abba Baba.